What's up, guys? James from Bolt Bros here. Hey, just wanted to be able to kind of show an article that was back from 2015 of when Joe Lombardi was with the Lions and kind of how it went with him as the offensive coordinator there and when he got fired. So, James from Bolt Bros, let's go. Let's get into it. All right, guys. Man, that's still the way that game was yesterday versus the Seahawks. It was just not fun to watch. Ugly, ugly. And even in this situation with this article back from 2015, Rosenthal wrote October 26th. I mean, we're October 24th. Wow. I mean, it's insane to be able to see where it's at. And this is when Joe Lombardi got fired. Basically, they just talked about how this is the Detroit's ugly start to the season. They were 1-6 or 7, I believe, at this time. They made shifts at this time. Jim Caldwell, he's an offensive coordinator guy. He brought in Jim Bob Cooter to be able to take as the offensive coordinator. They fired Joe Lombardi on Monday. They also fired the offensive line coach, Jeremiah Washburn and Terry Heffernan. They made shifts and when they needed to do it. Midpoint for them. This is young years of Matthew Stafford. We're young years of Justin Herbert. Showing that he's not finding a way to capitalize on people's talents. We know that Matthew Stafford is a good quarterback. We know that he's a guy that actually can play well. And if you even see some of his highlights from the Lions years, I mean, he was a very solid quarterback. Just seemed like the franchise was not able to really back him as a quarterback. So it makes you think a little bit about where we're at right now and how we're using young years of Justin Herbert with Joe Lombardi and how he is not doing what everybody expects him. Interesting thing about this article talks about here, this paragraph right here, I think is one of the big things we need to focus on. He spent 7 seasons with New Orleans, including 5 years as Drew Brees' quarterback coach. Lombardi's place in Detroit always felt like an awkward fit. Maybe there has been some talks about some players not buying into systems. Maybe they're still thinking that he's the guy that just doesn't fit with this team. Lombardi struggled to adapt a Saints-like offense in Detroit based on timing and precision. Matthew Stafford has never mastered a finer points of the position like Brees, and he regressed in an offense built around short passing. Wow, we've seen this before. A lot of hook routes, flat routes, nothing too phenomenal in using a skill set. We knew Matthew Stafford had a great arm coming into the NFL. We know that Justin Herbert has a great arm, and we're not seeing it this year. We're not allowing it to see that way. We're seeing, let's start just playing this dink and dunk game. And I'll tell you what, every defense will love to have the receivers right in front of them and not expect them to go past them. I mean, right in front of you, they'll give up a 4-yard catch every day. They'll give up that. And we're averaging that. I think even in this Seattle game, we only had an average of, I think it was 4.8 yards per play. Yeah, 4.8 yards per play. There's a point here where they will take that all day. Mind you, that's almost 5 yards. Cool. Awesome. Great. We ran the ball against the worst, I think it's second to last, rush defense, 53 yards. What is going on here, guys? Like, how are we doing that? How are we playing a game where we just cannot run the ball on one of the worst defenses in the league? This is not good. It's not acceptable. It is not acceptable to be able to see Justin Herbert not play like Justin Herbert. I know and understand there's injuries going on here. Justin Herbert has a rib injury. If anybody's ever had a rib injury, it hurts moving either which way, especially twisting your body, which requires with throwing the ball and grabbing the ball from the center and to run around. I get it. It hurts. It's got pain to it. Maybe it's worse than we realize. But also go out there and say, hey, we've had Keenan Allen out for a while. I mean, since week 1, basically. We had Mike Williams go down in this game. Looks like an ankle injury. We had Joshua Palmer out. with concussion. Our three wide receivers basically had some issues within this last game. We've had Rashawn Slater out for the season, bicep issue. We've had Corey Linsley out last week and a couple weeks ago. Still ended up finding a way to win last week. I get it. Injuries happen. That's how the NFL works. It's a 100% chance you're going to have injuries. But the thing I'm saying here is that this offense is not adapting with shifting and changing. Seems like it's just going back in a regression situation. Interesting thing within this article, it talks a little bit about, hey, 1-6. The last straw came when Lombardi lost to the Lions, or excuse me, lost to the Vikings to drop to 1-6. The team's offensive line has struggled to recognize where pressure is coming from. They got a little bit confused. I think our line is a little bit better. I think we had the worst amount of sacks given up last week versus, actually, it was tied from the week before. We only gave up 2 sacks this game, but Herbert has been getting a lot of pressure all around. So the one thing that I'm just going to kind of point out further on this is that, there's just not being productive. Jim Caldwell basically said that because we're not being productive, that's key. The big thing is to be productive on a continuous basis. I mean, whatever level you want to say productive wise, we're decreasing the amount of points that we're scoring each game now. Last year, I think we're at 29 points average. I think we're at 24 per game average. We're giving up more points on our defense. I think we're going to be the worst in the league in the amount of points given up each game now. So that's a totally different topic to be able to chat about that. And even to say Brandon Staley making the play calls instead of Ronaldo Hill. So, but going back to the article here and staying on topic, every game requires something just a little bit different. And the thing you have to understand is that you can't change offense in 2 weeks time, 4 weeks time. So it's obviously going to take some adjustments along the way. The thing I'm reading and the way I read this is every game requires something just a little bit different. And so it makes you think, is Joe Lombardi doing the same set of plays every single game? Going back to even a past defensive coordinator, we had Gus Bradley. I remember when he was the head coach for the Jags, Jalen Ramsey at the time when he was with the Jags, he said, hey, we do about 5 of the same plays over and over all game. That becomes predictable. That becomes very, very predictable. So offenses know, hey, this is what they're going to do. Cover 3. They're going to do this. Rush 4, which is very much what Gus Bradley did, which was a frustrating thing. Joe Lombardi seems like he's not adjusting very well. He's not changing anything. He's being very stubborn with his play calls that he's just going to do the same plan over and over and over. And I think the defense understand that now. That's why we're having a little bit of an ugly game here. And, it's tough to be able to see. During this season, too, in 2015, the Lions, or actually 2014, they won 11 games under Joe Lombardi. We think about our first year with Joe Lombardi, we won 9. Stafford was more erratic than ever during that season with that 11 games winning season. The offensive efficiency was 19th in the league last year. And then this current year for 2015 for the Lions, they have now fallen to 26. Are we starting to see that trajectory, guys? I want to pose that question to you. Are we seeing that trajectory with this team and with this offense? Are we seeing these same things that Joe Lombardi did back in 2015 when he got fired almost to the day, and the same amount of games dang near with this team? Once again, going back on it, we've seen a lot of injuries with his team. I get it. But we still have Justin Herbert still out there. We have a guy that has made some phenomenal throws. Even during the Chiefs game when his rib cartilage got cracked, he was still making throws. That throw to DeAndre Carter was phenomenal. The throw to Joshua Palmer in the back end of the end zone to get that touchdown, phenomenal. It's just we're not progressing. We're regressing, in my opinion. When you start seeing the trajectory starting to dip back down, that's when changes need to happen. And I think that's kind of where we're at right now. We're starting to see that point. Yes, it's going to take time to be able to develop a new offense or basically a new mind in this team. But at the same side, you got to find a way to make adjustments when necessary. And so this is what the bye week's about. It's a resetting. Brandon Staley even talked a little bit about that in his post game. This is time to reset, re-understand, readjust, and to make changes and shifting. So I want to hear from you guys. I know for us in our live that we did, it was just a bloodbath of this, that, and everything, and we're doing terrible at this and that and all that. So I want to hear from you guys. Based upon what we've seen in history repeating itself, we're seeing about the same exact thing that happened with Joe Lombardi back in 2015 to what's happening with the Chargers now. I want to hear from you guys. So let us know what your thoughts are on this, what we should be doing, and if this is going to happen where we're going to make a shift at the offensive coordinator. I think Shane Day could be a guy that could really bring a little bit more juice, a spark into this team. And we'll see kind of if that happens. But once again, guys, James from Bolt Bros. Appreciate you guys watching. Like, subscribe, comment. Let's talk about this more, guys. Bolt Bros out.